My name is Britta Halvorsen and I'm 34. The dinner table was set the way my mother always set it. Good plates, cloth napkins, the candles she saved for company. It was a Tuesday. We weren't company. We never were. I had driven 2 hours from Bellingham in rain that came sideways off the Sound. The wipers beat the whole way. I had Marcus in the back seat, 9 years old, asleep against the window. Lily was in the front, 6, eating crackers from a bag and watching the dark trees go by. I had picked them up from school that afternoon, same as every afternoon for the past 14 months. My mother called it dinner. I called it the thing I did every 6 weeks so she wouldn't say I was keeping the kids from her. She met us at the door with Lily first. Both arms, a sound like she hadn't seen her in years. Marcus stood on the porch mat and waited. "Come in, buddy," I said. He came in. My father took his coat. That was something at least. We sat down at 6:17 p.m. The roast was good. The rolls were from a bag and nobody said so. Lily told a story about her teacher and a frog that may or may not have been true, and my mother laughed in the right places, and for 20 minutes it felt like a normal family dinner. Then Marcus knocked over his water glass. It wasn't much. It spread toward the centerpiece and I caught most of it with my napkin before it hit the cloth. Marcus said sorry twice. I said it was fine. I handed him a dry napkin and we kept eating. My mother looked at him the way she looked at things that disappointed her, not angry, just tired. Like he was a problem she had already decided wasn't worth solving. I noted it. I said nothing. That was the first silence. My sister Petra is 31. She has been in and out of treatment for 3 years. I won't say more than that because it isn't my story to tell and because the kids don't need it written anywhere, even here. What I will say is that 14 months ago she called me from a parking lot in Anacortes at 11:22 p.m. and asked me if I could take them. Just for a little while, she said. I said yes before she finished the sentence. I drove to Anacortes that night. I packed what I could find, 2 backpacks, some clothes, Marcus's library book that was 3 weeks overdue. Lily had fallen asleep in her shoes. I carried her to my car and buckled her in without waking her. Marcus was awake. He stood in the doorway of the apartment and looked at me. "Are we coming back?" He said. "I don't know yet," I said. He nodded. He picked up his backpack and walked to the car. He was 8 then. He is 9 now and he has not asked that question again. I work as a marine surveyor out of Bellingham. I assess vessels for insurance underwriting, structural integrity, mechanical systems, documentation compliance. I have been doing this for 6 years. Before that I crewed on a halibut tender out of Sitka for 2 seasons, which is where I learned what a boat actually does when it fails. My clients are insurers, buyers, sellers, and occasionally the Coast Guard when a vessel has to be flagged. I am good at my work. I say that plainly because it matters later. I document carefully. I have always documented carefully. It is what surveyors do. It would turn out to matter in ways I had not yet anticipated when Marcus and Lily arrived. My apartment is a 2-bedroom on the north side of Bellingham, half a mile from the yard where I keep my survey kit. When Marcus and Lily came to live with me, I moved into the living room and gave Marcus the 2nd bedroom. Lily sleeps in what had been my office. I bought a daybed and put a string of lights above it because she asked for stars and it was the closest I could do. I registered them at the school 4 blocks away. I learned Marcus's bus number and Lily's teacher's name and the exact time the after-school program released kids on early dismissal days. I bought a 2nd car seat and a booster and a lunch bag shaped like a whale that Lily chose herself. I did not call my parents for 2 weeks. When I did, my mother said she wished I had told her sooner. I said I was handling it. She said that wasn't the point. I didn't argue. My father asked if I needed money. I said no. He asked again. I said I was fine. He sent $400 anyway, which I used for school clothes, and I called to thank him and left a message he didn't return. That was month 1. Month 2 was harder. Marcus had nightmares the first 3 weeks. Not loud ones, he wasn't a loud child. I would hear him in the early hours, a low sound through the wall, and I would go to the door and listen. Sometimes it stopped on its own. Sometimes I knocked and went in and sat in the chair by his desk until he fell back asleep. He never said what the dreams were about. I never asked. Lily slept through everything. In week 3, Marcus came home from school and went straight to his room and closed the door. He didn't come out for dinner. I knocked at 6:30. He said he wasn't hungry. I said okay and left a plate on the floor outside his door and sat at the kitchen table and ate my own dinner and listened. At 7:15 the plate was gone. I did not make a point of it. By month 3 things had settled into a shape I could work with. Marcus's bus arrived at 3:22 p.m. Lily's after-school program released at 4 o'clock. I had worked out a route between the bus stop and the school that added 4 minutes to the walk, but went past a bakery where Marcus had, once without being asked, noted that the smell was good. We went there on Fridays. He got the same thing every time. He did not explain why and I did not ask. I learned his schedule the way I learned a vessel's layout, systematically, without assumptions, checking each system twice. I knew that he needed 20 minutes alone after school before he could talk. I knew that he did his best homework at the kitchen table, not his desk. I knew that he would eat anything as long as it was not what he called mush, which turned out to mean any food where the textures had merged, which eliminated most casseroles. I adapted. I learned that he kept a list in his notebook, not a diary, not a journal, just a running list of things he had noticed that day. Clouds in a specific formation. A truck with an unusual modification to its cab. The way a particular puddle reflected the streetlight at a certain angle. He did not show me the list. I saw it by accident when he left the notebook open on the table. I did not mention that I had seen it. That was month 1. My parents live 40 miles south of Bellingham in a town called Burlington, 15 minutes off the highway in a house my father built himself in 1987 with a detached garage he uses for woodworking. My mother taught elementary school for 22 years and retired when her knees went. They are not unkind people. I want to say that clearly. They are not unkind. They have a category system, though, that I did not fully understand until I was watching it applied to someone else's children, to children I was now responsible for, and then I understood it very well. Lily is easy. She came out of the womb charming. She makes eye contact. She laughs at the right moments. She says please without being told and draws pictures of flowers and gives them to adults, who put them on their refrigerators. My mother has 3 of Lily's drawings on her refrigerator. She has had them since month 2. Marcus is not easy. He is quiet in a way that reads to people who don't know him as sullen. He answers questions in the fewest words possible. He doesn't perform warmth. He is, in fact, one of the more perceptive children I have ever been around. He notices things adults miss, asks questions that take me a moment to answer, reads 2 grade levels above his age, but none of that is visible on first meeting or second or sometimes 10th, if you're looking for the easy version. My mother was looking for the easy version. I had understood for years that my mother organized the world into categories, children who rewarded attention and children who required it. She was not cruel about this. She had given 22 years to a classroom and she was good at it. But the children she lit up for were the ones who gave something back quickly, who laughed at the right moment, who looked her in the eye, who offered the easy warmth that made adults feel useful. She had a gift for those children. She always had. Marcus didn't know he was supposed to give something back. Or he knew and didn't see the point. The second visit in month 3 he had brought one of my old survey charts to the table, a marine chart of Bellingham Bay, because I had pulled it out for a work reference and he had picked it up and spent 20 minutes looking at it. He wanted to show my father something about the depth soundings near Lummi Island, some pattern he had noticed in the numbers. He had carried the chart the whole drive down, rolled in his hand. My father had looked at it with him for 10 minutes at the kitchen table while my mother and I finished the dishes. My mother had glanced over twice. Both times she had turned back to the sink. She hadn't been unpleasant. She'd been absent. That was, I was learning the more precise word for it. By month 4 it was visible. Lily got the long hugs. Marcus got his coat taken. Lily's drawings were on the refrigerator. Marcus's school project, a detailed pencil drawing of a seiner he had copied from a photograph in one of my survey manuals, sat on the counter for 2 visits and then disappeared. I don't know where it went. I didn't ask. I drove down every 6 weeks. Both kids 2 hours, sideways rain. I sat at that table and I watched my mother look at Marcus the way she looked at things she had decided weren't worth solving. I said nothing. Every time. The first time I brought both kids to Burlington, Marcus had been with me for 6 weeks. He was still sleeping badly then. I could hear him through the wall, turning over, the small sounds of a child who has not yet found a way to settle. I had put a nightlight in his room because he had not asked for one and I thought he might want one but not know how to say so. He never mentioned it. He used it every night. At that first dinner in Burlington, my mother had served chicken and rice, and Lily had eaten 2 portions and complimented the rice twice, both times unprompted. Marcus had eaten his portion and said nothing and helped clear the plates without being asked, which I noticed and my mother did not. Afterward, my father had shown Marcus a piece of furniture he was working on in the garage, a small cabinet, cedar, still in pieces, and Marcus had looked at the joinery for a long time without speaking, and then asked a question about the wood grain that my father had to think about before answering. My father had told me about it on the drive back to the car. He said the question was a good one. I noted it. In the 14 months since Marcus and Lily came to live with me, I had restructured my entire working life around their school schedule. I moved my survey appointments to early mornings, 6 a.m. starts on the days I had yard access, so I could be at pickup by 3:15 p.m. I had turned down 2 multi-day vessel jobs that required overnight travel. One was a $4,200 contract on a converted research vessel out of Port Townsend. I passed it to a colleague and said I had a scheduling conflict. I did not explain further. I had paid $1,180 in after-school program fees over 14 months, so that on the days I had afternoon surveys I knew where the kids were. I paid this out of my own account. I did not ask Petra. She had nothing to give and knew it, and I didn't want her to carry that on top of everything else. I had taken Marcus to a pediatric appointment in Mount Vernon in February because he had stopped eating lunch at school and I wanted to rule out the physical things first. The appointment was $220 after insurance. The doctor said he was fine physically. I scheduled a follow-up with a counselor at $95 a session and took him 4 times. By the 4th session he was eating lunch again. He told me the counselor had a poster of a boat on her wall and that was why he trusted her. I didn't tell him I had specifically called ahead and asked what was on the walls. I had driven 9,400 miles in 14 months between Bellingham, Burlington, school events, survey sites, and the one trip back to Anacortes when Petra had a difficult week and needed someone to sit with her for an afternoon. I sat with her for 5 hours. I drove back in the dark. I had bought Marcus a second-hand bicycle in March, $65 from a listing in Ferndale, and spent a Saturday morning in the parking lot of the elementary school teaching him to ride it without the training wheels he was embarrassed to still have. The training wheels had been on the bike when I bought it. I had removed them the night before in the building's parking garage with a wrench I kept in my survey kit, and then leaned the bike against the wall and looked at it. It looked more like a bike without them. Simpler. Ready for something. The Saturday morning was overcast, cold enough for breath. Marcus had not said he was embarrassed about the training wheels. He had said 2 days earlier when I showed him the bike that he didn't need the wheels. I had not pointed out that they were there. I had just said we'd take them off in the morning. He fell twice. The first fall was from a balance problem. He corrected too hard to the right and went down on his knee, and I took a step forward and he looked at me and I stopped. He picked himself up. He got back on. The second fall was at speed, at the far end of the parking lot where he'd been turning. He went down harder. He sat on the pavement for a moment. I walked toward him and he stood up before I got there. He did not say anything about the falls. He got back on the bike. By noon he was riding the length of the parking lot without stopping. He looked back at me once, no expression, and then turned and rode to the far end again. I had made 847 school lunches. I know because I counted once when I couldn't sleep. It came to 847 and then I stopped counting and went back to bed. I had attended 1 school play, 2 parent-teacher conferences, 1 science fair where Marcus placed 3rd with a water density demonstration he designed himself, and 1 awards assembly where Lily received a certificate for kindness and Marcus received nothing and sat with his hands folded in his lap looking at the stage. The awards assembly was in October. It was a Tuesday morning, 3rd period slot, and I had moved a survey appointment to make it work. The gym smelled like floor wax and the folding chairs were arranged in rows, parents in the back half. The categories were Most Improved, Perfect Attendance, Outstanding Performance, and Kindness. Lily received the kindness certificate. She walked across the stage and took it from the principal and held it with 2 hands and said thank you with her whole body, the way Lily did everything. I clapped. Marcus sat with his hands folded. He watched Lily walk back to her seat. Then he looked at the stage again while the remaining certificates were given out. His face did not change. I sat next to him. I didn't say anything. On the drive home he said, "Does it matter?" "The certificate." I said, "What do you think matters?" He looked out the window for a moment. Then he said, "The water density thing. I figured that out myself." "Yeah," I said. "You did." "Lily got kindness," he said. "That's different from figuring something out." "Different categories," I said. He thought about this. "Yeah," he said. That was October. By November I had framed his third-place ribbon and hung it in his room above his desk, where he could see it from his bed. My parents came to the science fair. My mother had offered to come and I had not talked her out of it. Lily's project was a display board about the life cycle of butterflies, with painted handprints forming the wings of a monarch and colored tissue paper for the caterpillar segments. It was the kind of project that makes adults stop and say, "Oh, how beautiful," and reach for their phones. My mother photographed it from 3 angles and posted it somewhere. Marcus's project was a demonstration table. He had set up 3 graduated cylinders of water with different concentrations of salt and food coloring, and he was walking people through why the layers didn't mix, the denser salt water staying below the lighter fresh water, the color making the boundary visible. He had made a small card explaining the principle in 2 sentences, which he had revised 4 times in the week before the fair because the first draft, he said, used a word he wasn't sure everyone would know. The word was stratification. He had left it in. My mother stood at his table for approximately 40 seconds. She said, "That's very neat." He said, "Thank you." She moved on. I was at the next table with Lily. I watched my mother move on. I kept my voice even. Marcus placed 3rd. He came to find me when the judges posted the results. He said 3rd and showed me the ribbon. I said that was well done. He pinned the ribbon to his jacket and went back to his table to explain stratification to 3 more adults who stopped to look. I stood there for a moment. Then I went back to Lily. I had covered $680 in school supply costs across 2 school years, $340 in winter clothing when Marcus outgrew his jacket in January, and $215 in registration fees for the after-school sailing program I enrolled Marcus in because he had lingered over a photograph of a sailboat on my survey kit case for 3 straight mornings and I recognized that look. He went every Thursday from 3:45 to 5:30 p.m. He came home smelling like salt water and diesel. He did not say much about it. But he went every week. The 3rd Thursday he came home and stood in the kitchen doorway for a moment before he said anything. "There are 12-foot lasers," he said. "That's what they learn on first." "I know that boat," I said. "It's tippy," he said. "On purpose. So you learn to read it." "How'd you do?" He thought about this for a second. "I didn't fall in," he said. "That's a start." He went to wash his hands and I stood at the counter and let myself feel something I didn't have a name for. I did not turn around to feel it. I just stood there for a moment and then I started on dinner. By November he had moved to the intermediate group, 1 tier ahead of where he had started. The program coordinator had called me in October to say Marcus was unusually attentive to water conditions and asked if he had prior sailing experience. I said he had been around boats but hadn't sailed. She said it was obvious he had been paying attention to something. I said yes. I didn't say what. I added that call to the document when I wrote the October section. I had fielded 4 calls from my mother in 14 months in which she raised, in various framings, the question of whether Marcus might do better in a different environment. A structured one, she said once. A more consistent one, she said another time. I understood what she meant. I did not say so. I said Marcus was doing well and that his counselor was pleased with his progress and that he had placed 3rd at the science fair. Each time she pivoted to Lily. I let her. I had not asked for recognition for any of this. I want to be clear about that. I did not do it for recognition. I did it because Petra called me from a parking lot at 11:22 p.m. and I said yes, and that yes meant something and I intended to hold it. But I had also not said out loud to anyone the full inventory of what the past 14 months had cost and built and required. I had not said it because there was no one to say it to. In October I started writing it down. 4 evenings at my kitchen table after the kids were in bed, with a cup of tea that went cold every time. I did not know what I was going to do with it when I was finished. I only knew I needed it to exist somewhere outside my own head. I built it like I built a survey report, chronological, itemized, nothing omitted. Every appointment, every cost, every mile. The jobs I had passed to colleagues. The school events. The phone calls. The things Marcus had said in the car that I wanted recorded somewhere, in case he ever needed to know that someone had been paying attention. By November it was 11 pages, printed double-sided, clipped into a brown legal size folder with a clasp. I set it on my desk and looked at it for a few days. Then I put it in my bag. I was still not saying any of it on the Tuesday in November when I drove 2 hours in sideways rain and sat down at my mother's good table with her good plates and her cloth napkins and watched Lily get both arms and Marcus get his coat taken. I set my fork down at 6:42 p.m. The thing my mother said, she said to my father. She didn't lower her voice. She wasn't being cruel exactly. She was being practical the way she had always been practical. Pour your energy into the sweet one, she said. The other one isn't worth it. Lily was at the far end of the table. My father was nodding slightly, the way he nodded when he didn't want to disagree. Marcus was 12 feet away. His chair scraped back from the table. Not loud. Just the sound of a 9-year-old deciding to be somewhere else. I watched him walk toward the hallway. He didn't look at me. I set my fork down. Marcus walked down the hallway and turned left into the bathroom and closed the door. Not slammed. Closed. I heard the latch click. My mother picked up her fork. My father looked at his plate. Lily was still talking about the frog, or something like the frog, something that had happened at recess, and my mother made the right sound at the right moment and the dinner continued. I sat with my hands in my lap. The bathroom door opened 4 minutes later. Marcus came back to the table. He sat down. He picked up his fork. He ate. I watched him eat. My mother did not look at him. My father refilled his water glass without being asked. That was something. I noted it. After dinner my mother served pie from a bakery box, apple, Lily's favorite, which my mother knew. Marcus ate his slice. He said it was good. My mother said she was glad. She did not ask if he wanted more. I drove home in the dark. Lily fell asleep before Bellingham. Marcus sat in the back and looked out the window and did not say anything for a long time. The highway was quiet. Just the lights of the occasional truck going south, the wet pavement reflecting everything. I could hear the wipers and the road and Marcus's breathing. He had been sitting quietly since we got in the car. Not crying, not moving. Just sitting with his hands in his lap and looking at the dark trees going by. Then he said, "Aunt Britta." "Yeah," I said. "What does not worth it mean?" I kept my eyes on the road. "Sometimes people say things that are wrong," I said. Was she talking about me? "Yes," I said. "And she was wrong." He was quiet for a moment. "But she said it," he said. "Yes," I said. "She did." He looked out the window. "Do you think that?" he said. It was not exactly a question. He said it the way he said things he had been carrying for a while. "No," I said. "Not even a little." He nodded slowly once and looked back at the window. He didn't say anything else. I watched the road. The rain had stopped and the highway was just wet and dark. When we got home I made sure he brushed his teeth and got into bed. I sat on the edge of his bed for a few minutes. He was looking at the ceiling. He had his hands crossed on his chest the way he slept, the way he'd been sleeping since month 2. "The sailing program is Thursday," I said. "I know," he said. "You want to go?" "Yeah," he said. "Good," I said. I turned off the light. I stood in the hallway for a moment. My throat went tight. Then I went to the kitchen and made a list of things I needed to do in the morning. That was November 12th. The call from my mother came on November 19th, a Tuesday at 7:43 a.m., while I was getting the kids ready for school. She called my cell. I saw her name. I let it ring out. I called her back at 8:24 a.m. after the kids were on the bus. "I wanted to talk about Thanksgiving," she said. "Okay," I said. "We thought we'd do it here. The usual time. Your father wants to do the turkey himself this year, so I told him fine." "Okay," I said. "Will you bring both kids?" I noticed the phrasing. I let it sit. "Yes," I said. "Good." She paused. "I've been thinking about Marcus." I said nothing. "He's had a hard year," she said. "We all see that. I'm not being critical." "Okay," I said. "I just think, and your father agrees, it might be good to think about what's actually best for him. Long term. Whether your setup is really," she paused again, "sustainable." "Our setup is fine," I said. "I know you think so." "I know so," I said. "Britta." Her voice went gentle. That was the version I found hardest. You're a single woman. You have a demanding job. These are two children who need stability. Lily's doing beautifully. She's thriving. But Marcus he needs something more structured than what you can give. I kept my voice even. What does structured mean? I said. A routine. A proper routine. 2 parents, ideally. Or a program. There are good programs. Your father and I looked into a few. My stomach dropped. You looked into programs, I said. We did some reading. Yes. There are residential options, not institutions, nothing like that, just structured environments with consistent caregivers and therapeutic. He has a therapist, I said. I know. You've mentioned that. She says he's doing well. I'm sure she does. She paused. But Britta, be honest with yourself. Is he happy? Is he actually happy? I looked out the window. The yard was wet. A crow was sitting on the fence post. He placed 3rd at the science fair, I said. He rides his bike to the park on Saturdays. He goes to sailing on Thursdays and comes home smelling like salt water. Last week he told me he figured out how to read the wind direction from the water surface before the instructor told him. Silence. That's lovely, my mother said. That's genuinely lovely. But that isn't what I asked. He's 9, I said. He's been through a hard thing. He's doing the work. So are you. That's my point. You're doing all the work and she stopped. I'm what? You're 20 miles from the nearest family support. You're turning down jobs. I know you are. Your father and I talk about this. You talk about my job schedule. We worry about you. Both of you. You worry about Lily, I said. You worry about me. You've decided about Marcus. She was quiet for a moment. That's not fair, she said. It's accurate. Britta. What programs? I said. Tell me what you found. She named 2. One was in Eastern Washington. One was in Oregon. She described them in the careful voice she used when she had prepared what she was going to say. I listened. I did not say anything until she finished. He's not going to a program, I said. He lives with me. That isn't changing. I'm not suggesting we force anything. I'm suggesting we have a conversation. We're having one, I said. A real one. As a family. At Thanksgiving. Sit down, look at what's best. What's best is that he stays with me and goes to sailing on Thursdays and placed 3rd at the science fair and has a counselor he trusts and a bike and a room of his own. That's what's best. My mother let out a breath. You can't do this forever, she said. I'll do it as long as it takes, I said. Petra isn't getting better. You don't know that. Britta. Her voice was soft. We have to be realistic. I said nothing. He's a difficult child, she said. I'm not saying that to be cruel. But some children need more than we can give them at home. There's no shame in acknowledging that. He's not difficult, I said. He's quiet. Those aren't the same thing. He's shut down, Britta. That's different from quiet. You've seen him at dinner 6 times. I've been watching children my whole life. Then you know the difference between a child who is shut down and a child who doesn't perform for people who haven't earned it yet. She was silent for a long moment. He doesn't make eye contact, she said. He makes eye contact with people he trusts. He's been in your home for over a year. He's been in your home for 6 dinners, I said. 6 visits, 2 hours each. That's 12 hours total. You've put 12 hours into knowing him and you've decided he needs residential care. That's not. How long did it take you to learn a student? In your classroom. A child who came in quiet, who didn't respond the way the other kids did. How long before you gave up on trying and called their parents to recommend an alternative placement? She was very quiet. I didn't give up on students, she said. You had them all year, I said. You had 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. You had time. You're comparing 12 hours of dinner visits to a full school year and deciding Marcus is the same as a child who couldn't be reached. That's not a fair comparison. I'm not being unfair. You're being quick, I said. That's different. She exhaled slowly. I know you love him, she said finally. I do. But love isn't always enough. Sometimes. Mom, I said. I'm going to stop you there. She stopped. Marcus is not going to a program. He is not being moved to a different environment. He is not going to be discussed at Thanksgiving as though he is a problem to be solved by committee. If that's the plan for Thanksgiving, then we won't be coming. Britta, I mean it. A long pause. We'll talk when you're less emotional, she said. I'm not emotional, I said. I'm clear. I heard her exhale. Come to Thanksgiving, she said. Please. I won't bring it up at the table. But I do think we need to have this conversation as a family. Soon. Your father agrees. Then Dad can call me himself, I said. She said she would have him call. She said she hoped I'd think about what she'd said. She said she only wanted what was best for everyone. I said I knew. I ended the call at 8:51 a.m. I stood in my kitchen for a while. The crow was gone from the fence post. The yard was just wet. My father called that afternoon at 4:17 p.m., 12 minutes after I got home from pickup. He is a quieter person than my mother. He makes his points in fewer words and then stops. I have always respected that about him, even when I've disagreed with the points. Your mother is worried, he said. I know, I said. I am too. A little. I know, Dad. You sound tired. I'm fine, I said. Okay. He was quiet for a moment. The program thing, that came from her. I wasn't in favor of bringing that up yet. Yet, I said. He didn't answer immediately. He's a tough kid to read, my father said. I'll give you that. But your mother, she worked with kids for 22 years. She's seen a lot of them. She's seen kids who look like Lily, I said. She knows what to do with those. That's not, he stopped. Maybe that's fair. It is fair. Britta. He shifted. I heard him set something down, a mug maybe. What's your plan? Long term. Petra this could be years. I know, I said. You can't run your business and raise 2 kids indefinitely on your own. I've been doing it for 14 months. I know you have. We see that. Your mother sees it too, even when she doesn't say it right. She doesn't say it at all. He was quiet. She had a category for Marcus before she knew him, I said. She put him in at the first visit. You were there. He didn't deny it. She's trying, he said. She's trying with Lily, I said. With Marcus she's made a decision and she's trying to get the rest of us to agree with it. She thinks she's helping. She looked into residential programs, Dad. That's not helping. That's managing. He exhaled. Come to Thanksgiving, he said. Just come. We won't make it a. She already told me she wants a family conversation. I'll talk to her. Okay, I said. I mean it. I'll talk to her. Okay, Dad. Are you really all right? I looked at the clock on the microwave. It was 4:31 p.m. In the next room, Marcus was doing homework. I could hear his pencil. Lily was drawing something at the coffee table and explaining it to herself in a low voice. Yes, I said. We're fine. Good, he said. That's good. We said goodbye. I put my phone on the counter. I stood there for a moment and listened to Marcus's pencil and Lily's quiet monologue. Then I went to the cabinet and started on dinner. I thought about the folder on my desk. 11 pages. Brown clasp. Everything. I had not yet decided when to use it. I had only decided that I would. I had started writing the document on a Wednesday evening in October, the week after the science fair. Marcus was in bed. Lily was asleep. I had made tea and sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and started from the beginning, November of last year, the parking lot in Anacortes, the drive in the dark. I wrote for 3 hours that first night. I did not stop for the tea. The second evening I typed what I had written and added the cost columns, every appointment, every fee, every item of clothing, every school registration. I had most of the receipts in a folder in the filing drawer because I keep receipts. It is the nature of the work I do, documentation as habit, and I cross-referenced each one against my bank records. The numbers were accurate. I wanted them to be accurate. If I was going to show this to anyone, it would need to be accurate. The third evening I wrote the narrative sections, the awards assembly, the bicycle in the Ferndale parking lot, the phone calls. The section on the 4 calls from my mother had taken me the longest to write. Not because I didn't know what I wanted to say, but because I wanted to say it precisely, without heat, the way I would write a survey report on a vessel where the findings were serious. I did not want it to read as complaint. I wanted it to read as record. The fourth evening I wrote the last page. The paragraph about why I had written it at all. I printed it on the morning of November 20th, after the kids had left for school. I sat at the table and read the whole thing through once. Then I clipped the pages together and put them in the brown folder and set it on my desk. I looked at it for 3 days before I put it in my bag. I had not yet decided when to use it. I had only decided that I would. Thanksgiving was 3 days later. We drove down on Thursday morning. The kids were in their good clothes. Marcus had combed his hair himself, which he had started doing in October. Lily had insisted on wearing a dress with a collar and I had not argued. The folder was in my bag on the back seat. I had looked at it once before I put it in to confirm the clasp was closed. The drive was quiet. Lily slept most of the way, which was unusual for her. Marcus sat in the back and watched the farms go by, flat winter fields, a gray sky sitting low over the Skagit Valley, the mountains not visible in the overcast. He had a small notebook on his knee. He was writing something, but I didn't ask what. When we crossed the Skagit River Bridge, he looked out the window at the water. "It's running fast," he said. "Good amount of rain," I said. "The color's different when it's running fast," he said. "More green. Less brown." "You're right," I said. He looked out the window for another mile and then went back to the notebook. We arrived at 11:33 a.m. The house smelled like turkey and wood smoke. My father was in the kitchen with a dish towel over his shoulder. He hugged both kids and asked Marcus about sailing, and Marcus told him about the wind reading thing, the same thing he'd told me in almost the same words. My father nodded and said that was something. It was something. My mother came out of the kitchen drying her hands. She hugged Lily first. Then she turned to Marcus and put her hand on his shoulder and said she was glad he'd come. He said thank you. She moved back into the kitchen. I noted it. It was better than the last visit. Marginally. I noted that too. We ate at 1 p.m. The turkey was good. My father was right to do it himself. He had brined it overnight, I knew because he mentioned it twice and it showed. Lily sat next to my mother and they talked about a video Lily had seen about sea otters holding hands, and my mother explained why they did that, something about not drifting apart while they slept, and Lily said that was the best reason she had ever heard for anything. Marcus ate steadily and answered when spoken to and didn't spill anything. My father asked him about the intermediate sailing group. Marcus explained the difference between the beginner program and the intermediate program in terms of what the instructors corrected versus what they let you figure out yourself. My father listened without interrupting. So they make the mistakes happen on purpose? My father said. The boat does, Marcus said. The instructor just doesn't stop it. So you learn to fix it. Or not capsize, Marcus said. My father laughed. It was a short laugh, surprised. Marcus looked at his plate, but I could see the edge of something in his expression. Not a smile exactly. Something adjacent to it. I kept my eyes on my food. After dinner, my father offered to show the kids something he was working on in the garage, a small project with the lathe, something he'd been at for a few weeks. Lily said she wanted to see. Marcus said nothing but stood up when my father went to the back door. The door closed behind them. My mother poured coffee. She set a cup in front of me. I could hear my father's voice from outside, something about the lathe. Lily's laugh, her real one, not the polite one she sometimes used with adults she wasn't sure of. Marcus had not laughed. But I could hear him saying something in that short sentence way he spoke when he was engaged. My mother sat down across from me. She wrapped her hands around her mug. Outside the window the sky had gone fully gray, the kind of November gray that wasn't overcast so much as committed. The sky had decided it was done with the other colors for the season. She looked at the table. Your father likes him, she said. I know, I said. He's always been better with the quiet ones. Even in my classroom, the children I couldn't reach, Tom always could. She paused. I was the one who could reach the lilies. I said nothing. She looked at her coffee. I know that's not enough, she said. No, I said. It isn't. She nodded slowly, accepting this. I want to show you something, she said. She went to the kitchen counter and came back with a manila envelope. She set it on the table between us. I looked at it. I printed some things, she said. About the programs. I want you to look at them with an open mind. I looked at the envelope. I told you, I said. This isn't happening. Just look. That's all I'm asking. I'm not going to look at them and then change my answer, I said. So there's no point. You don't know that until you look. Mom. Britta. She wrapped both hands around her mug. I love you. And I love those kids. Both of them. I need you to hear that. I hear it, I said. Marcus is struggling. He's doing better. He doesn't connect with people. He connects with the right people. He's 9 years old. He needs to connect with more than the right people. He needs what he has, I said. A stable home. A school he knows. A Thursday program he loves. A counselor he trusts. He needs not to be sent somewhere because it makes adults more comfortable. She was quiet for a moment. We're not trying to make ourselves comfortable, she said. We're thinking about what's sustainable for you. You're thinking about what's legible to you, I said. Lily is legible. Marcus isn't. That doesn't mean he needs to be somewhere else. Britta, I taught school for 22 years. I know. And I have seen children like Marcus. Like Marcus how? I said. She stopped. Like Marcus how? I said again. Be specific. She pressed her lips together. Withdrawn, she said. Resistant. Children who don't let people in. Those children need. He lets me in, I said. He tells me things. He told me last week about the wind on the water. He told me in October that his third-place ribbon mattered more than the certificate because he figured out the demonstration himself. He lets me in. You haven't given him a reason to let you in? Her face went still. That's not, she stopped. You decided about him, I said. First visit. You put him in a category and you've been in that category ever since. The programs, the residential options, the sustainable conversation, that's not about what's best for Marcus. That's about confirming what you already decided. I am trying, she said. I am trying very hard with him. You took his coat on the first visit. You didn't photograph his science fair project. You said at this table that he wasn't worth it. He was 12 feet away. He heard you. The color left her face. He heard. He asked me in the car what not worth it means, I said. He asked if you were talking about him. I told him yes. And I told him you were wrong. She set her mug down. I didn't know he could hear, she said. I know, I said. That's part of it. I wasn't trying to. I know you weren't trying to be cruel, I said. That's the thing I keep coming back to. You weren't trying. He was already in the category. She was quiet for a long time. Outside I could hear my father's voice low explaining something. Lily laughed at something. Marcus said something I couldn't hear. I don't know how to reach him, my mother said finally. Her voice was different. Smaller. I know, I said. I genuinely don't know. With Lily it's just there. And with Marcus I feel like she shook her head. I feel like I'm failing every time. Then stop trying to solve him, I said. Just be there. That's all he needs. She looked at her hands. He asked me something once, she said. Last spring. He asked me if I knew what a seiner was. I said I didn't. He started to explain and then he stopped. I said nothing. I think I looked impatient, she said. I wasn't. I didn't know how to enter into it. I didn't know the language. And he saw that and he stopped. He stopped because he thought you didn't care, I said. I did care, she said. You needed to say so. That's the whole thing with Marcus. He doesn't assume interest. He waits for evidence of it. She was quiet. He drew a picture of a seiner, I said. For a school project. He copied it from one of my survey manuals. He spent 2 weeks on it. He brought it here. It sat on your counter for 2 visits and then disappeared. She closed her eyes briefly. I moved it, she said. To make room for a dish. I meant to put it somewhere. I don't remember where it went. I didn't answer. I should have put it on the refrigerator, she said. Yes, I said. She looked at the envelope. I looked at it too. I'm going to ask you to put that away, I said. Not in a drawer. I'm asking you to put it in the recycling. And I need you to close the conversation about programs. Permanently. She looked at me. Permanently? She said. Yes. And if I think he needs more than you can give? Then you call me. Just me. And we talk. As his family. Not, I nodded at the envelope. Not this. She was quiet. Okay, she said. Say it clearly, I said. Okay, she said again. No programs. I'll close it. I reached across the table. I picked up the envelope. I slid it back to her side. She took it. There's something else, I said. I reached into my bag. I had brought the folder. Brown, legal size with a clasp. I had put it in my bag that morning before we left, and I had not mentioned it, and I had waited. I set it on the table. My mother looked at it. What is that? She said. Something I want to show you, I said. After Dad and the kids come back inside. She looked at me. What's in it? She said. Everything, I said. I stood up. I cleared the coffee cups. I rinsed them at the sink and set them in the rack. I dried my hands. I folded the dish towel and hung it on the oven handle. I walked to the back door and opened it. My father was showing Marcus something in the garage, a piece of wood clamped in the lathe, half-shaped. Marcus was watching the way he watched things he was interested in, still, intent, no expression except the eyes. 10 minutes, I said. My father looked up. Come on in when you're ready. I closed the door. I went back to the table. I sat down. The folder was still there. I put my hand on it and waited. My father came inside first. He came through the back door with Marcus behind him and Lily behind Marcus, and he was saying something about the grain of the wood, how you had to read it before you cut it or you'd lose the whole piece. Marcus was listening. He stopped inside the door and looked at the table. He looked at the folder. He didn't say anything. Sit down, I said. All of you. My father looked at my mother. She was sitting with her hands in her lap. He pulled out the chair across from her and sat. Marcus took the chair at the corner. Lily sat next to my mother and immediately leaned against her arm the way she always did, and my mother put a hand on her shoulder the way she always did, and that stayed the same at least. Britta, my father said. What's this? I want to show you something, I said. I've been thinking about how to do this for a while. I decided Thanksgiving was the right time. My mother was looking at the folder. You said everything, she said. Yes, I said. What does that mean? It means what I said. My father leaned forward. Should I be worried? No, I said. This isn't bad news. It's information. He sat back. I reached across the table. I put my hand on the folder and slid it toward the center, where everyone could see it. My mother's hands came off her lap and rested on the table edge. I unclasped the folder and opened it. Inside was a single document. 11 pages, printed double-sided. I had assembled it over 4 evenings in October and November, after the kids were in bed, at my kitchen table with a cup of tea that went cold every time. I turned it so it faced my parents. My father picked it up. He looked at the first page for a long moment. What am I looking at? He said. Read the title, I said. He read it. He said it out loud. 14 months, he said. An accounting? My mother leaned over to look. It's a record, I said. Everything I've done for Marcus and Lily since November of last year. Every appointment, every cost, every mile, every school event. The jobs I turned down. The overnight contract I passed to a colleague. The counseling sessions, the school fees, the clothing, the sailing program, the science fair. All of it. Itemized. My father turned to page 2. He read for a moment. His eyes moved across the columns, dates, costs, locations, hours. He was a methodical man. He read the way he built things, steadily from the beginning, not skipping ahead. The mileage, he said. 9,400 miles, I said. He kept reading. The lunch count, my mother said. She was reading over his arm. Her voice was quiet. 847. Yes, I said. You counted the lunches. I counted them once, I said. One night when I couldn't sleep. It came to 847 and I stopped counting. She was quiet. In 14 months, my father said. He was still reading the second page. Yes, I said. He set it on his knee and rubbed his face with his hand. Then he picked it up again. He turned to page 3. He read the itemized costs, the after-school fees, the pediatric appointment in Mount Vernon, the 4 counseling sessions at $95 each, the bicycle from the Ferndale listing, the school supplies, the sailing registration, the winter coat when Marcus outgrew his jacket in January. He read each line without commenting. He turned to page 4. The school events, he said. Yes, I said. He read the list, the play, the parent-teacher conferences, the science fair, the awards assembly. He looked up from the page. He looked at me. The awards assembly, he said. Where Lily got a certificate. And Marcus didn't, I said. He looked back at the page. You wrote about what he said in the car, he said. Yes, I said. My father read that section in silence. He read it twice. I watched his eyes go over the same lines a second time. Then he turned to page 5. He read the section on the overnight contract, the $4,200 job I had passed to a colleague in month 3. He read the note I had written about it, one line, no explanation, just the number and the date and the words passed to colleague, scheduling conflict. You turned down $4,200, he said. In month 3, I said. There were others. That's the one I documented. Why that one? Because it was the largest. And because the colleague I passed it to asked me twice if I was sure. I said yes both times. My father set the document down on the table for a moment. He pressed his hand flat against page 5 and looked at the ceiling. Then he picked it up again. He turned to page 6. He read. His jaw tightened once near the bottom of the page and then released. The phone calls, he said. You logged the phone calls. For calls, I said. In which the question of whether Marcus might do better in a different environment was raised. In various framings. My mother sat back. Britta. I'm not finished, I said. My voice was even. She stopped. My father turned to page 7. He read slowly now. He was a methodical reader and he was being thorough. The conversation in the car, he said. November 12th. Yes, I said. He read it aloud, quietly, more to himself than to us. What does not worth it mean? He asked if you were talking about him. I told him yes and I told him you were wrong. The room was quiet. Lily had stopped leaning against my mother. She was drawing a shape on the tablecloth with her finger, not paying attention. Marcus was sitting with his hands folded on the table. He was looking at the document in my father's hands. My father looked up at Marcus. Marcus looked back at him. Neither of them said anything. My father turned to page 8. He read the section on the counselor, the called-ahead question about the poster, the 4 sessions at $95 each, the 4th session and the lunch. The counselor, he said. You called ahead about the poster. I knew he needed a reason to trust someone before he could trust the process, I said. So I called ahead and asked what was on the walls. She had a photograph of a sailing vessel. I scheduled the appointment. My father looked at Marcus. Is that right? He said. The poster? Marcus looked at him. Then he nodded once. Slow. It was a sloop, Marcus said. She had it behind her desk. My father held his gaze for a moment. Good eye, he said. Marcus said nothing. But something in his face shifted slightly, not much, just the eyes, the way they stayed on my father a half-second longer than usual. My father turned to page 9. He read the section on the phone calls from my mother. He read the part about the programs. He read what she had said about Petra. He put the document down again. He looked at my mother. You found residential programs, he said. I was trying to. Did you tell me about the programs? She hesitated. I mentioned them, she said. You said you'd done some reading, he said. You didn't say residential programs. Tom, did you tell Britta about them on the phone or in person first? On the phone, she said. On the 19th. He turned to me. Is that in here? Page 7, I said. He found page 7. He read the section. He set the document down and looked at his wife for a long time. You called our daughter, he said, and told her you'd found residential placement options for a 9-year-old boy. I was trying to help. That's not help, Margaret. That's, he stopped. He pressed his hand flat on the table. That's deciding. She was quiet. That's deciding, he said again. Before you talked to me. Before you talked to Britta. You decided. I was worried, she said. I am worried. He's sitting right here, I said. She looked at Marcus. Marcus was looking at the table. His hands were still folded. His face was still. Marcus, I said. He looked at me. You don't have to stay for this part, I said. You can go look at the lathe with Grandpa later. This is adult stuff. He considered this. I want to stay, he said. I nodded. My mother looked at him. Marcus, she said. He looked at her. She stopped. She started again. I said something at dinner. 3 weeks ago. That you heard. He waited. It was wrong, she said. It was wrong and I'm sorry. He kept looking at her. Okay, he said. I don't, she shook her head. I don't know you as well as I should. That's my fault. Not yours. He held her gaze for a moment. I know about the wind on the water, he said. If you want I can show you how it works. You need a flat surface. My mother's face went still. Then something in it released. I'd like that, she said. Yes. I'd like that very much. He nodded. Then he looked at his folded hands. My father picked up the document again. He turned to page 10. He read the last full page. It documented the science fair in detail, the water density demonstration, the third-place ribbon, the awards assembly. The ribbon I had framed and hung above Marcus's desk, where he could see it from his bed. He set the page down. He looked at my mother. She was looking at her hands. My father turned to page 11. He read the last page. It was shorter than the others, half a page, one paragraph. I had written it in November, 2 nights before Thanksgiving after Marcus was in bed. My father read it silently. Then he read the last 4 lines aloud. I am not doing this to be recognized. I am doing it because I said yes and that yes meant something. But I have decided that the people who love these children should understand the full weight of what it means to love them. So I am writing it down. All of it. Here it is. He set the document down. He didn't say anything for a moment. You said everything, he said. Yes, I said. You've been carrying all of this. Yes. For 14 months. Yes. He looked at my mother. She was looking at the document. Her hand was resting on it now on the corner of the last page. I called him a lost cause, she said. Not to anyone in particular. To the room, maybe. To herself. You said he wasn't worth it, I said. Those were your words. She looked at me. Those were your words, I said again. And you said he wasn't worth it. He was 12 feet away and he heard you. And he asked me in the car what it meant. She looked at the document. And he came back to the table, I said. After he heard you. He came back and he ate his pie and he said it was good. That's who he is. He came back to the table. I don't deserve that, she said. No, I said. Not yet. But you can earn it. She looked at me. That's the offer, I said. It's the only one. You closed the conversation about programs, permanently like you said. You put in the time with him. Not the easy time with Lily. The time with Marcus. The Thursdays at the sailing program if he wants you there. The garage with Dad. The things he actually cares about. You show up for those. And if I can't figure out how to reach him? She said. Then you keep trying, I said. That's it. You keep trying and you don't use the word sustainable again in relation to my household and you don't look into programs and you don't discuss where he should live at a family dinner. She was quiet. Those were your words, I said for the 3rd time. Sustainable. Worth it. Pour your energy into the sweet one. Those came from you. I'm giving them back. She looked at the table for a long time. My father was watching her. Lily was still drawing shapes on the tablecloth. Marcus was looking at the window. Okay, my mother said. Say it, I said. No programs. She looked at me. I close it. I put in the time. I show up for what he cares about. She paused. I stopped deciding. Yes, I said. I stopped deciding, she said again. Slower. Like she was learning the shape of it. I gathered the document from the table. I stacked the pages and clipped them back into the folder. I closed the clasp. I stood up. I'm going to take the kids to the park for an hour, I said. The one by the water. We'll be back by 4. My father nodded. My mother looked at Marcus. The wind demonstration, she said. Tonight. After dinner. Will you show me? He looked at her. You need a flat surface, he said. The water works best but a table works too. We have a table, she said. He considered this. Okay, he said. I put my coat on. The park by the water was mostly empty on Thanksgiving afternoon. A few people walking dogs. A man flying a box kite badly, the thing swinging in wide arcs and then dropping and then lifting again and dropping. A woman with a thermos on a bench near the path. The sound was flat and gray and the light was going already at 3:40 in the afternoon the way it does in November in the Pacific Northwest, gone before you're ready. Lily ran ahead to the swings. Marcus walked beside me. He had been quiet since we left the house. Not a bad quiet. He was processing something. I recognized it the way I recognized it from the back seat of the car, from the homework table, from the mornings when he ate breakfast with his eyes somewhere else. He would come back from it when he was ready. I had stopped trying to shorten those times. We walked the path along the water. The gravel was wet and dark. Someone had chalked something on the park bench nearest the pier and the rain had blurred it almost to nothing, just the ghost of shapes. Marcus looked at the water. "How deep is it here?" he said. "Varies," I said. 60 feet in the channel. Shallower toward the shore. "How do you know?" "I've surveyed in this bay," I said. "And there's a chart." He nodded. We stood at the railing above the water for a while. The surface of the Sound was textured in a way that moved, patches of dark and light, the wind crossing it in long diagonals. I had looked at water like this 1,000 times from the deck of a survey vessel and never paid attention to it the way Marcus had taught me to. "You can see it," he said. He wasn't pointing. He was just looking. "Yeah," I said. "The dark patches are where it's moving faster. The light ones are calmer. It changes." "How do you know which way it's coming from?" He looked at the water for a moment. "The leading edge of the dark patch," he said. "That's the direction." I looked. He was right. I could see it. We stood there for a while. I had a key in my coat pocket. It had been there since September. It was the key to a small aluminum survey boat I had bought secondhand in August, a 16-foot workboat, nothing impressive, aluminum hull, a small outboard, adequate for nearshore surveys and, when the water was calm, for other things. I had bought it for $6,400 from a man in Anacortes who was upgrading to a fiberglass vessel. He had asked me what I was going to use it for and I had said work, mostly. Mostly. I had taken Marcus out on it twice. Once in September, once in October. We had gone out early in the morning before school, just far enough to be on open water. I had shown him the basic controls. He had asked the right questions in the right order, which told me he'd already been thinking about it. The second time, I let him hold the tiller for 10 minutes in flat water. He didn't say anything the whole time. He just watched the surface and made small adjustments. When we came back in and tied up, he handed me the key. "Same time next week?" he said. "Same time next week," I said. I took the key out of my coat pocket now and held it in my palm. Aluminum, small, with a red float attached. Salt-stained. It had lived in the pocket of this coat since September and had started to feel like it belonged there. I held it out to Marcus. He looked at it. "The boat?" he said. "The boat," I said. He looked at me. "I'm not selling it," I said. "I'm telling you that it's ours. Yours and mine. We go out when the water's right and you learn what you want to learn." He looked at the key in my palm. He took it. He turned it over once. Then he closed his fingers around it. "Okay," he said. He put it in his pocket. He stood with one hand on the railing and looked at the water. I could see him thinking. He had a way of going still when he was thinking, not passive, just contained, the way a boat sits quiet in a calm harbor and is still a boat with somewhere to go. "What do you do in winter?" he said. "With surveys. Some vessels need winterization assessments. Documentation reviews. I do a lot of paperwork in winter." "But you go out?" "When I need to." He looked at the water. "I want to learn how to read the charts," he said. "The real ones. Like the one I found in your kit." "Okay," I said. "Not just the depth numbers. The rest of it. The symbols and the hazard markers." "Yeah," he said. "That's learnable," I said. "We can start with the Bellingham Bay chart. I have a good copy." He nodded. We stood at the railing for another few minutes. Lily was calling something from the swings, not to us, just to the air, an announcement to no one. A ferry horn sounded somewhere out on the water, low and long, carrying across the flat Sound, the way sounds carry over water in that particular November way, as if the cold makes room for them. I didn't say anything else. He didn't either. Some things don't need saying once they've been handed over. I thought about the document in the folder in my bag. 11 pages, everything accounted for, every mile and every lunch and every appointment, and every morning I had moved to 6 a.m. so I could be at pickup by 3:15. I had written it down because I needed it to exist somewhere outside my own head. Because I had been carrying it in silence for 14 months, and silence has a weight that compounds. It accumulates the way interest compounds, quietly and without announcement, until one day you do the math and see what it has become. I didn't regret the silence. I had needed it to understand what I was doing and why. I had needed to carry it long enough to know its full weight before I could set it down and show anyone else. But I was glad to have set it down. It was lighter now. Not gone, that wasn't how weight like this worked, but distributed. Shared, finally, with the people who should have been sharing it from the beginning. A crow landed on the railing 10 feet from us and looked at the water. Marcus watched it. "They're smart," he said. "Smarter than they look," I said. "They remember faces," he said. I read that. "They hold grudges." "Good memory for things that matter," I said. He considered this. "Yeah," he said. The crow rocked once on the railing and then lifted and was gone. We watched it go. If this story stayed with you, if you've ever been the one who showed up quietly, who kept the count no one else was keeping, who waited until the right moment to lay it all out, share it with someone who would understand. They'll know why.